Once again, good evening, comrades. I would like to call this gathering to order and invite Madam Juliet Pearson to come and offer a prayer of thanksgiving.
Good evening, everyone. Could we all stand so we can offer a prayer to the Lord Almighty? Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living Father, we want to invite your presence here tonight on this special occasion because we know that without you, nothing is possible. And so we want to thank you and to praise your name for bringing us all here together tonight for this evening of reflection that is hosted by the National Congress of Women. We know that we are here to pay tribute to a hero of our soil. And as we proceed tonight, we ask the dear Lord to be in our midst. May we reminisce and maybe dedicate and take a pattern from what we're going to hear. Bless the proceedings. Bless each and every one of us, oh dear Father, and be with us as we go through the program tonight. In your name. All these mercies we ask in thy name, O dear Father, and anything that we may fail to ask, we ask thee, Lord, to grant it through thy Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Madam Pearson. You may be seated. Let me introduce myself. My name is Volda Ann Lawrence. I am the chairperson of the National Congress of Women, the backbone of the People's National Congress Reform. And this evening, it is my pleasure to take you through this program and to also welcome you. I would like to recognize within our midst former Prime Minister, former Mayor of the City of Georgetown, but more importantly, his role as elder of our great party, Comrade Hamilton Green. I would like to welcome the family of our dearly beloved Oscar Clarke, his wife, Linda Clarke, his son, Junior Clarke, and all the other family members here with us this evening. Executive members and members of the National Congress of Women, members of the Central Executive of our party, members of Parliament, regional councillors, town councillors, NDC councillors, comrades all, including those in the diaspora. Welcome. This evening, the National Congress of Women invites you to reflect with us on the life of our former General Secretary. Oscar Clarke meant a whole lot to the women's arm of the PNC. We would describe him as our honorable member, honorary member. Our tribute, we would describe him as our honorary member, our troubleshooting partner, our partner who helped us to fill the gaps. And so we call him our GS of everything. He was always there for us, conferences, training, visits to our districts, funerals, get well cards, a phone call here and a phone call there, the yearly Christmas party for the children, just to name a few. But above all, he was the pot spoon that stirred our pot as women. Yes, he was. So this evening, I welcome you all to reflect with us on the life of a dedicated, encouraging, and supportive General Secretary and member of the National Congress of Women, Comrade Oscar Clarke. Thank you. I will ask you all to turn to your program, pull out your little song sheet, and we are going to sing as lustily as Oscar would have had he been here. I hear nobody saying anything. We are going to sing because he lives, because while Oscar served in the political realm, he also served in the spiritual realm, and he was very serious about his service to the Lord. So who is going to start us off? Let's go on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. God sent his son. They called him Jesus. He came to love. He died for him. He bled and died. An empty breath, my Savior lives. Because that is the applause you give to Carol Smith-Joseph. And life is worth living just because he lived. How sweet.
Good evening, comrades. I'm going to do a poem that was written by Martin Carter during the days of the resistance. Death must not find us thinking that we die. Too soon, our banner draped for you. I would prefer the banner in the wind, not bound so tightly in a scarlet fold. Not sudden, with your people's tears, but flashing on a pole we bear aloft, down and beyond the dark lane of rags. Dear Comrade Clarke, if it must be, you speak no more with me, you smile no more with me, you march no more with me, then let me take a patience and a calm. For even now, the greener leaf explodes, sun brightens stone, and all the river burns. Now, from the morning vanguard, the National Congress of Women moving on. Dear Comrade Oscar Clarke, we salute you. And I say, on behalf of all of us, death will not find us thinking that we die. Thank you.
That is the applause you give to Carol Smith-Joseph. Comrades, one thing about former General Secretary, and I will keep calling him former General Secretary, GS, etc. No disrespect to the present GS, but as I told him a long time ago, that he will be my GS until time is no more, because I believe from my own perception that he performed his duties as General Secretary second to none. He was in a class all by himself. And so being the patriot that he was, I'm going to ask you to once again lift your voices as we sing Hymn for Guyana's Children. I see a lot of bishop girls and PC girls and boys here and so on. So they could probably help start it off. Juliet, you want to come and help us? Hold on. I know you didn't go to Miss Peters' lessons. Juliet, you want to come and help us? I would have asked Auntie Cheryl. I see Hazel. But you don't come up here.
One, two, three. With humble hearts and heads bowed down, in thanks for each new day of toil, we kneel before thine altar, Lord, the children of Guyana's soil. Great is the task that thou hast given, thy will to show, thy truth to find, to teach ourselves that we are one in thy great universal mind. But not in vain we'll strive to build a new Guyana, great and free, a land of glory and of hope, a land of love and unity. O children of Guyana, rise, rise up and sing with happy tears, and bless the land that gave you birth, and vow to serve her through the years.
That was well done. You could give yourselves another round of applause. So we ask you right now to sit back as you hear from the women of the National Congress of Women. You will hear from Sister Vera France, the chairperson of District 6 Quarantine. You'll hear from Sister Linda Gomes Haley, executive member, former national secretary, and assistant treasurer. And then you'll hear from yours truly in that order. Sister France.
A pleasant good afternoon to each one of, good evening, sorry, to each one of us. Good evening. Yes, we are here to celebrate a life. A life that, what we must say, should not have gone now. but God knows best. So this afternoon, I bring tributes from the National Congress of Women. The National Congress of Women lost a friend and a comrade, Oscar Eliza Clarke, who departed this earthly life on Wednesday, the 15th of May, 2024. Oscar gave extraordinary service in significant position of politics, public life, and civic life. The National Congress of Women worked closely with Oscar during his tenure as General Secretary of the People National Congress Reform. Oscar avidly supported the NCW's work to empower Guyanese women in all sectors of national life. Periodically, he urged the NCW to be guided by the contribution of transformation leaders who founded the People National Congress of Women. Auxiliary, the prosecutors to the National Congress of Women. Some of those leaders were Jane Philip Gray, Winifred Gaskin, and Margaret Ackman. He had a high respect for the leadership abilities of female members of the PNCR and their dedication to the party. Oscar Clarke came from a humble background prior to entering Parliament in 1964. He was a supervisor at the Postal and Telecommunication Department, renamed GTC. While serving in the youth movement, the PNC's leadership recognized that he was multi-talented and selected him for higher office. As a parliamentarian, deputy speaker, minister of government, and diplomat. He also served as a councillor of the Georgetown City Council for many years. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Why me? I will try to do my utmost, but it's not what I have wanted. The National Congress of tribute to Oscar Clarke from the National Congress of Women. The National Congress of Women lost a friend and a comrade, Oscar Clarke, who departed this earthly life on Wednesday, the 15th, 2024. Oscar gave extraordinary service to significant positions of politics, public life, and civic life. The National Congress of Women worked closely with Oscar. During his tenure as General Secretary of the People's National Congress Reform, Oscar supported the National Congress of Women's work to empower Guyanese women in all sectors of national life. He urged the National Congress of Women to be guided by the contribution of the transformational leaders
who founded the People's National Congress Women's Auxiliary. The National Congress of Women, some of those leaders were Jane Phillips Kay, Winifred Gaskin, and Margaret Ackman. Margaret Ackman Jones, sorry. He had a high respect for the leadership abilities of female members of the PNCR and their dedication to the party. Oscar Clarke came from a humble background. Prior to the entering the parliament in 1964, he was a supervisor at the Postal and Telecommunication Department, renamed GTC. While serving in the, I'm not saying, sorry. While serving in the youth movement, the PNC's leadership recognized that he was multi-talented and selected him from higher office as a parliamentarian, deputy speaker, minister of government, and diplomat. He also served as a councillor of the Georgetown City Council for many years. Oscar also served with distinction in different roles in the PNCR, such as the PNC Youth Organization and in the PNC Secretariat. After serving in public life, he was appointed to the esteemed position of General Secretary of the PNCR. He worked at Congress Place, where he served with 3 PNCR leaders with different leadership styles. Oscar political enabled him to gain the trust of the late leader, Hugh Desmond Hoyt, and former leaders, Robert Corbin and David Granger. They were confident that the lifeblood of the PNCR, the Secretariat, was in the safe hands of Oscar Clarke, a leader of integrity. Oscar provided stability for the party during one of the most challenging periods of the PNCR's history. May his soul rest in peace.
When you work with Oscar for many, many years of your life, it is very hard to know that you would have seen him, some of us the very day, some a few days before, or even spoke to him, and then there was a call that said Oscar Clarke was no more. So for many of our comrades, I can speak for my sisters, you may see us laughing and so on, but Oscar's passing is a very hard blow for all of us. As we continue with our tribute, Oscar Clarke a principled PNCR leader, eschewed factions within the party. His overriding goal was to unify, strengthen, and ensure that the PNCR achieved progress as a sustainable, influential, and respected national political party. He spearheaded the reinvigoration of the PNCR, which played a crucial role in the election of the APNU-AFC coalition to government office in May 2015. I don't know if he went home some of those nights. Against the background of his extraordinary contribution to Guyana, Oscar Clarke received a national award, the Cassie Crown of Honor, for his dedicated service to Guyana for over 6 decades. Prominent members of civil society respected Oscar and admired his patriotism, dedication, and distinguished service to his motherland. His professional decency in carrying out his duties was also highly regarded. In his different roles as a servant leader, he worked with purpose and vigor to improve the social and economic well-being of Guyanese. While he served as a parliamentarian, Oscar displayed civility to parliamentarians across the aisle, some of whom are sitting with us this evening. The chairperson and members of the National Congress of Women call on members of our party to honor Oscar's memory by playing our part, individually and collectively, to strengthen and unify the PNCR. Oscar was the epitome of loyal and dedicated service to the People's National Congress reform. Oscar's memory will live on in the very fabric of the PNCR. May his legacy inspire our members to serve this party with dedication and build a united and disciplined party. Our cherished comrade Oscar has gone to the great beyond, but his activism lives on, and his voice resounds. A luta continua, the struggle continues. Let us remember great and extraordinary PNCR leaders, heroes, heroines, who departed this early life and inscribed the name of Oscar Clarke on the list of heroes of the People's National Congress report. I, the chairperson, Paula Lawrence, and the executive committee and members of the National Congress of Women, all 10 regions in Guyana, and our regional body in New York, extends heartfelt condolences to Oscar's wife, Linda, his children, Oscar, Paula, and George, and other surviving relatives. We are comforted that Oscar is in the arms of his heavenly Father. To Oscar's family, be consoled by memories of him as a devoted husband, caring father, and cherished family member and friend. May the soul of Oscar Clarke, my GS, our comrade, rest in eternal peace and rise in glory. That is a tribute from the National Congress of Women. And now you'll turn to your song sheet. And we are going to sing This Land Is My Land. If you really knew GS, he would have told you of all of his travels across the length and breadth of this country. He'll tell you about when they had roads, when they didn't have roads. He will tell you about red dust. He'll tell you about quarantine and West Coast, Beast, and all over. He will tell you about his journeys, where he took the name of the People's National Congress across the length and breadth of Guyana. So let us sing lustily, This Land Is My Land. Do I have to call for help? On the count of three. 1, 2, 3. This land is my land. This land is yours. From the green forest to Atlantic waters, this land was made for you and me. As I went sailing the water I went, I saw above me the endless skyway. I saw behind me the emerald jungle. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled and made a journey to Mount Roraima and the green savannah, and all around me our voice was sounding. Thank you. So we're going to do the last two verses again. But before we do that, I'm asking the driver of the Lamborghini PZZ 241 to kindly remove your vehicle. It's blocking someone's entrance. That sounds like Lance's vehicle. I'm told it's a wagon.
Lamborghini.
So if you're the driver of PZZ 241, a Lamborghini, kindly remove it while the rest of us will sing this song once more. And we're singing it in honor of our dear Oscar Clarke, the real McCoy. As I went sailing the water highway, I saw above me the endless skyway. I saw behind me the emerald jungle. This land was made for you and me. I roam and ramble and made a journey to Mount Roraima and the green savannah, and all around me our voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. Again, this land.
This land was made for you and me.
Thank you very much, comrades. I'm quite certain that as the spirit of Oscar Clarke hovers around and between us, he's smiling And so we turn now to tributes. And we will begin with the Burnham's Foundation. The chairman of the Burnham's Foundation, none other than Comrade Vincent Alexander, will come to give us the first tribute.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. All protocols observed. Comrades, friends, and colleagues, there is absolutely no pleasure in what I have to do, but indeed a necessity. If ever I was shocked in life, the death of Oscar shocked me. One of the last engagements I had with Oscar, whom I normally call Scar. Scar. That's what I called him and will continue to call him. Was when we were preparing for the last activity to mark the founder's 100th birth anniversary. And somebody made some scurrilous remark about readiness and fitness. And Oscar demonstrated to us on that occasion that notwithstanding his age, an age which never really showed, notwithstanding his age, that he was still capable of doing push-ups and the like as a demonstration of his physical fitness. So you could well imagine how surprised I was when I got the word that my comrade, my friend, and my colleague, Oscar, had passed. I speak as chairman of the Burnham Foundation, but I also wish to impose myself as representing one generation younger than Oscar in the YSM. I'm seeing his equals and my elder here, but I'm imposing myself to speak on behalf of the YSM as well. 2 Fridays ago, I attended a memorial service in Mocha, Arcadia, for one of our comrades from the United Kingdom, Comrade Daniels. And I was forced on that occasion to represent myself as a substitute in the absence of my dear brother, Oscar. One of the things that Oscar was well known for is knowing all the comrades and being the one, without fuss or flair, to be present when any of our comrades was deceased, and without being appointed to deliver condolences on behalf of the party. And so I took up that mantle in Mocha, Arcadia, but said to them I was doing it as a replacement and a substitute for Oscar Clarke. Had he been alive, he would have been the one who would have been doing that. And tonight, it is an occasion, a celebration of his life, that brings me to the podium. I think I've been associated and known Oscar for much longer than most. I'm recognizing those who are my elders, but much longer than most. When I became a member of the Central Executive of the party in 1977, Oscar was already a Central Executive member. But one could not know of his history at that time. In life, there are moments that live on. And I am reminded and told that one of the greater moments in Oscar's life, and I checked with my colleague, Eugene, I think it was 1967, at the YSM conference in those days in 1967, when Oscar declared that he would rather be chairman of the YSM or nothing else. 1967. But he didn't become chairman, but I can say it brought a humility that lived on beyond 1967. And that became one of the hallmarks of Oscar Clarke, his humility. But I'm advised that he benefited from that 67 conference. Although he didn't become the chairperson, I think he is bequeathed a spouse from that village of Fort Dwayne at that time. Only this year, in February, as the Burnham Foundation held its annual conference, Oscar was inducted into our Hall of Heroes. The Burnham Foundation does not have a patron. Patron is long gone. And what we have is a patronal council of elders. Given the death of two of the elders, Comrade Cisnerang and Comrade Rashley Jackson, Oscar was called upon to join that council of elders. And so the Burnham Foundation is mourning the loss of yet another of its council, patronal council of elders. The senior of that council is with us, Comrade Hamilton Green. I managed to work along with Oscar in many capacities. I had the privilege of taking over the chairmanship of the Georgetown district from Oscar Clarke. I had the privilege of being the vice chairman of the party and acting chairman of the party during his period as general secretary. And if I refer to Oscar earlier as being humble, I may now refer to him as being loyal. If you wanted a loyal comrade, that comrade was Oscar Clarke. Loyal to the party, unshakable, unmovable in his loyalty. Once the party took a position, Oscar stood by the side of the leader and steadfastly held to that position. It may have brought him into conflict sometimes, even with myself, but he stood steadfast. But the fact that it may have brought us into conflict demonstrates another quality of Oscar Clarke. Oscar Clarke bore no malice and was not in any form vindictive. And so even though we have had differences from time to time, it never interfered with our relationship. And anyone with whom Oscar didn't have a good relationship is because they didn't want it. Because the man Oscar maintained the decorum and the humility to embrace all of his comrades in the struggle. There are some elders who gave up a profession and a career to work for and with the People's National Congress reform. I think we have to give it to Comrade Hamilton Green, probably to be the major spokesperson in the party's life. There are others, but this evening we have to acknowledge Oscar Clarke as one such other, who gave up all sorts of possibilities to serve his party from a very young age onto his time of departure. And so, comrades, colleagues, and friends, we are saying farewell to someone who has really served and whose life has been lived in a manner that should allow us, even in our moments of sadness, to celebrate his life for the contribution that he made to his party and he made to his country, here and abroad. Not to forget that Oscar served in Zambia at the time when Zambia was a frontline state and was able to mingle and facilitate those Southern African freedom fighters as Guyana made its contribution to the liberation in Southern Africa. Oscar was on the front lines on behalf of the People's National Congress. And having served there, then retreated to Cuba to render service in Cuba as well. So he served us at home, he served us abroad. He served Guyana, he served the progressive community of the world. Oscar has left an indelible mark on the landscape of Guyana and on the struggle of the peoples for liberation. May his soul rest in peace, as I extend condolences to each and every one of us, and his family in particular, on this, his passing. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Alexander. We will now have Comrade Morris Wilson, who will be representing the groups of North America. Comrade Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades all, on behalf of the North American Region Incorporated, I bring condolences to the Clarke's family and to extend our condolences not only to the Clarke's family, but to the PNCR. The PNCR has lost a stalwart. Who was Oscar Clarke? A visionary. Oscar was a gentleman and a scholar. We would miss him dearly. May his soul rest in peace and rise in eternal glory. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Wilson, and thank you to our comrades in North America, all of those who are with us via Zoom this evening. We want to thank you for your continued support. We will now have a tribute from one of our elders of the National Congress of Women, and she will tell you of her walk with Oscar. I call to the podium none other than Sister Cheryl Sampson, AA.
Good evening, everyone. It's hard, but I have to do it. I first met Oscar Clarke just after I came to work with the WRSM in 1979. And we struck up a good friendship. We've met at many party forums. But when I took over the chairmanship of the National Congress of Women in 1996, we became closer. Oscar and I worked towards building this party of ours. August 6th was a special day for us in that we remembered Forrest Burnham. And the Women's Arm always had an activity. When Oscar took over as General Secretary, he decided, look, we can work together. And if only so many other people could do likewise. January, at the beginning of the year, Oscar would say, Cheryl, come, we can work on the party's calendar of activities. And you will call on Kim Chong to pull up last year's calendar and we will go through it. And we will add and we will do what? August 6th, he said we're going to write one set of letters. Instead of the National Congress of Women sending out its own letters for its afternoon activity, and he's sending out for the party's activity in the morning at the mausoleum, we want one letter. And you send to the same people and you invite them for morning and afternoon. Whenever we have our activity here in the afternoon, Oscar was present to make certain things were right. Anything we had here, Kitty, you can call on Oscar. Vincent talked about him being the man for funerals. I think after a while, I was a woman for funerals because Oscar dragged me along. I don't know how many of you remember Courtney Gibson, who worked with us. He worked in the media at one time. Courtney Gibson's father died in Essequibo. And Courtney's uncle, who was a twin to his father, died on the East Coast. One died morning, one died afternoon. And so they were taking the one from the East Coast down to the Essequibo Coast for burial. Oscar said, Cheryl, we go into Essequibo. Fine, we go in with Ivor Allen. When we got to Ivor's place of business, Ivor had an emergency. Ivor said, Oscar, do you want Cheryl go? I don't remember what time was the funeral, but what I know for sure, we were late in leaving Georgetown. You talk about drive. I sat down next to Oscar. I mashed brakes, changed gear and everything because I am, my heart in my mouth. Oscar tear off from Camp Street. When we got to Perico, luckily we got a boat that was leaving. We got to Essequibo. As we are coming out of the taxi, they're bringing the two corpses into the church. Oscar was there in time to pay his tribute. With Oscar Clarke, I went to funerals in Essequibo, in Region 3, in Region 10, in Region 7, 5, 6. How many of you remember that there is a place on the quarantine, I think it's at Port Moran, Spreadies. At night, at 11:15, my phone rang. I said, what the devil is this calling me? I pick up the phone, is Oscar Clarke. So what is your problem now? Cheryl, I just hear the Spready there. Spready is a Muslim. So what happened, Oscar? They bury me tomorrow? Yes, we got to go. Oscar, what time are we leaving Georgetown? Give me a time. I said, I'll be there. I said, but I ain't driving. And so we tore off. When we got to quarantine, there was two other party persons who were present at that funeral. Hamilton Green, and I think it was Winston Felix. We went to quarantine to a funeral. Oscar gets up to pay a tribute and then decides that yes, he's here from the party, but it's a woman that is dead, and so he's going to call on me. And so I had to get up and pay a tribute. Oscar Clarke had a desk Anybody who go into Oscar room would want to know how the name of God he working at this desk. I said to someone, he know we got the, And I'll tell you why. I had the fortune of going to the United Nations in 1981 and working with the then ambassador, Noel Sinclair. And Noel had a desk just like Oscar. And you want to know how these men understand. And you come to Noel and you say, PR, I gave you a document and you haven't given it back to me. And he said, where was I sitting? Right at your desk. And where were you standing? I was standing here, but then it got to be here. And he finds it. Another day, I said I was standing over there, but it has to be here, and he found it. And that was Oscar Clarke. The desk looked as confusing as hell, but he knew we're there. One day I laughed at him. They called him hurriedly to a meeting at City Hall. And there was a document he wanted to take, and he couldn't find it. All he kept saying, this document is on this side of the table, and for the life of me, you couldn't find it. So after a while, I see you getting flustered, go down your way. If I find it, I will send it with Vincent. And he went out. And by the time he left, I went to say he did decide, and I started searching, and there was a document. And I called the gate. I said, you gone through the gate yet? They said, no. I said, tell him come back, I find the document. But as crazy as the desk looked, it was there. And those of you who know the desk, knew he always had something looking like a cup that had a number of cards or programs. Oscar went to funerals and collected funeral programs. If a comrade dies in Essequibo and he can't go, he says, send the information, and he writes it and he puts it there. You want to know why he's keeping all of this information. But that is his record. Because come General Council, when he has to call the list of people who died during the period, and you have to get up to do your 1 minute silence, he got all the names according to the programs in order of when they died. Meticulous Oscar. The NCW going to quarantine number 51 for children party. Oscar said, come in. He came when we went to do the preparations to meet with the people. When they were having some problems, he helped us solve the problems. That was Oscar Clarke. I learned so much from him. During the period of more than a decade, I had lunch with Oscar from Monday to Friday. When I was working at the Cyril Potter College of Education, I started work at 2 o'clock into the evening. So I came from home and I got into Congress Place like about 11 or so on. I brought in fruits. Oscar always had cake, or sometimes I bring in cake, and we would have our coffee together. Lance Scarberry, Alan Monroe, sometimes Yvonne Ben, sometimes Robert Corbin as leader would come over with us. Because during that time, it was a ganga, but at the same time, it was important things you were discussing. And a younger person, me, I learned from those guys. When you talk about dotting your I's and crossing your T's, that was Oscar. If I had to prepare a speech, I did it and I said, Oscar, vet it. And he would make certain I don't have any wrong grammar or anything. Oscar Clarke, my friend, my body friend. my comrade, my general secretary. We walked the length and breadth of Guyana together. We served this party of ours together. And now I'm saying goodbye to him. His time on earth is over. He fought a good fight and he ran the race. So Linda, Oscar Jr., Paula, and George, his siblings, and all other relatives, his friends, his comrades. I say, we all might weep, but not without hope. As I said, he has done his work. He serves Guyana, and he served well. I will say to my brother, sleep on, beloved. Sleep and take thy rest. We loved you, but God loved you best. May the soul of Oscar Eliezer Clarke rest in peace and rise in glory.
When Mama Cheryl, as she's called in our neck of the woods, said that she was not going to be reading any tribute to Comrade Clarke, that she was going to speak. I went silent on the phone because personally, I didn't think that she could have stood here and do what she just did, speak from the heart. Knowing how close she worked with Oscar and the relationship they shared. But God is good and he's good all the time. And so we're happy to have heard from her. That brings us to the end of our first 3 tributes. And now we're going to sing How Great Thou Art. And having heard all of those things about Comrade GS, there's a lot to give thanks for. So we'll sing it lustily. And if there are any persons who would like to come up and give a short tribute, please let me know so that after Comrade Randolph Critchlow would have performed for us, we can have you come and give your tributes. We're winding down. So you turn to your song sheet. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the works thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy path throughout the universe display. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art! How great thou art! How great thou art! Then sings my soul. My Savior God, to thee. How great thou art! How when through the woods and forest glades I wander and hear the birds sing sweetly in the trees. When I look down from lofty mountain grandeur and hear the brook and feel the gentle breeze, then sings my soul. Savior God to thee, how great thou art. How great thou art. How great thou art. Thou art. Then sings my soul. I Savior God to thee, how great thou art. Great thou art. How great. And when I think that God his Son not sparing sent him to die, I scarce can take it in that on the cross my burden gladly bearing, he bled and died to take away my sin. Then sing my soul, sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart? Then I shall bow in humble adoration and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul. Your God to thee, how great thou art. Thou art, how great thou art. How great thou art. Thank you very much. We will now have Comrade Randolph Pritchlow, Councillor of Region Number 4, to do a poem.
Good evening. Effervescent whenever I think about Comrade Clarke, that's the first word that jumps to mind, words like fizzy, vivacious, bubbly. I remember our encounters very well. You would have very affectionately put the young before he addressed you by your last name. Young Critchlow, he would say, saw your program, and then he would go on to give you some very sage and salient advice. And so, it was Martin Carter who said, the debt, and Comrade Carol Smith Joseph so eloquently told us earlier that death must not find you thinking that you die. And I think that Comrade Clarke, with his effervescence and his fizzy nature, would confuse the hell out of death. It is that same poem that I borrow from for this piece, and I took some creative liberties for this particular piece. Death must not find us thinking that we die too soon. Too soon our banner drip for you. We would prefer our banners in the wind, not bound so tightly in the scarlet fold. In your honor, we march forward, embracing a future that you fought for. Our resolve strengthened by your memory, and our spirit ignited by your passion. Your legacy lives on in every step that we take, in every voice that calls for justice, in every hand that lifts the fallen. Your vision for a brighter tomorrow guides us as we strive for unity and progress. We remember the days when you stood tall, leading with unwavering conviction, your voice a beacon of hope, your action a testament of courage. You inspire us to dream bigger, to fight harder, never settle for less than what we deserve. And through those darkest of nights, your words were like a guiding star, reminding us that dawn will come. And together we are stronger, and that our cause is just and our mission is noble. Rest in power, comrade. Rest in power, dear comrade, for the fight continues within us. And death will not find us thinking that we die, for we live on in the movement that you helped to inspire. So we resolve to transform our grief into action, our mourning into momentum, as we push forward, united and unyielding, towards a vision that you held so dear. Dear comrade, rest knowing that we will continue the struggle, that we will advance your ideas, that we will embody your spirit, undaunting and determined. And that, I say again, will not find us thinking that we die, for we live on in your spirit, resolute and resolved. Thank you.
Well done, Comrade Critchlow. Thank you. Comrades, let me take the opportunity to invite you tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. to the party headquarters, where the party will be hosting a night of reflections for the great Oscar Clarke. So you have a lot of things to do for the rest of this week. You have another reflections tomorrow evening, and Friday you have funeral. So go home and get yourself together and be as diligent as Oscar Clarke would have been. I will now invite to the microphone the founders of the Ghana Day Committee, Dr. and Mistress Pinder to pay tribute. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Hotep, good evening. My name is Sister Penda Guyan, and I wear many hats, but tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the Ghana Day organization. Reason being, let me just backtrack. The very first time I saw Brother Oscar Clarke was in I think it was around 66, when he came to London as a young minister at the Lewisham Town Hall. You know, when we leave home and we are away from home and everything that's happening overseas, you're anxious. And we heard of this young minister coming up. So the first thing, we were going to make our way across London to the Lewisham Town Hall to hear him. We were very impressed. And then years later, as I came back home to Guyana and met Brother Oscar, I reminded him, I said, can you remember when you came to England as a young minister and you spoke? And before I could finish, he said, Lewisham Town Hall. I said, there you go. But I'm very saddened because I've lost a very good friend. We at the Ghana Day Association started off at Channel 9 and we outgrew the grounds of Channel 9. So Sister Eve Blackman and I and another member made our way across to Congress Place. And we went to Brother Oscar and said to him, we've outgrown the spot, and can we? And without even hesitating, he said, you can keep Ghana Day here. Sister Linda, I don't know if you recall that very evening, it's when he was attacked at home and he was shot. And we heard, and we always talk about that, myself and Brother Oscar, because it was our first encounter to keep Ghana Day, and then hours later, we got the call that this had happened. Anyway, I cannot see us keeping Ghana Day and looking across and not seeing Brother Oscar. This is the only year that he was not there to open the Ghana Day celebration. He always did the opening for us. And that just goes to show the sort of person he, I wouldn't say was, because in the Kemetic culture, Brother Oscar lives on. The Ka is what we will be looking at, but the Ba is right there. So that's the person that he is, very dear to us. And we from the Ghana Day Association would like to give our condolences to his family and to all of the party members, friends, relatives. Please accept our sincere condolences.
And may I have your attention for about 2 or 3 minutes, because I must add, this is very important to our comrade. Again, I must say condolence and great respect to everyone. Now, there's a line I saw in the hymn, Because He Lives. And what it says, and then as death gives way to victory. What that means? we at Ghana Day Association recognize that someday death will come, what you call death. But we talk about victory all the time. We talk about life. And I tell you, we always wanted our brother, our comrade, to prepare his works so that the young and old in our communities, home and abroad, can know what we call, you call it history, we call it Sankofa. It's not his story, our story, Sankofa. So we could understand his Sankofa journey, but we never got a chance. Every time Sister Penda met him, he said, when are we going to put those papers together? We never got it done. But I tell you why that's important and why, what the victory really is. Death is death. The car is there, but a car prepares the bar for the victory. Our oppressors know it, but we don't. Our oppressors know that the bar lives on, so they have in libraries, they have databases, they have museums, etc. We have the soul is something called soul to rest in peace. No, we will not rest in peace, and our comrade will not rest in peace. And all the works, all the teachings, all the experience of our comrade will be in libraries, will be in databases, will be a museum, and that I promise you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. and Sister Pinda. We will now have a tribute from our dear comrade, Joshua Shorit Mutu.
Chairperson, Mrs. Clarke, family, condolences to you, a heartfelt sympathy. When I heard that Scar passed, it was unbelievable because I was looking forward to his being with me when I was coming to Guyana, and I'd been preparing since last November. But be it as it may, I couldn't make that journey. Physical incapabilities, I determined that I delayed that visit. On each of my visits, Scar would find time, every single occasion, to be with me. Chowrit, you in tongue? Yes, Scar, I come in. And there he would drive, will sit with us, sometimes Jeff. Well, Eugene is always there, and Carl would sometimes join us. We'll sit down, burn a gaff, reflect on things of the past. We talked about what we know to be foundational stores and buildings and blocks of the People's National Congress. For almost 6 decades, Scar has been a mentorship living, and he lived what he spoke. He lived what he believed in. Comrade Alexander mentioned his loyalty. Tonight, what this is all about. We come, we reflect, and we talk about all the things that we can remember of Scar. But then what happens next? How many of us will take the lessons learned from the death? Death must never be a point of stop. Death must always be a point of beginning. A point not merely of reflection, but a point of going forward. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here as a body, as a party? What are we to learn from Scar's loyalty? What have we to learn from his meritorious services? What have we to learn from his diligence? What have we to learn from his sacrifice? You saw those little clips of paper that he had on his desk, those funeral things. How many of us would want to remember that? How many of us would come and reflect upon those little comrades who passed away? Scar would remember us. That is the blocks that build this organization, this party. Are we willing to go back and start paying attention to those blocks? That is what Scar has left behind for us. That is what the lesson his death has taught us. That is, death is a new beginning. To my dear friend, who has been my mentor for a long, long time, we shared journeys overseas. We shared many, many, many evenings together. He has taught me what diligence is. He has taught me what loyalty is. He has taught me what forbearance is. We must not think of faith as an act of religiosity. We must think of faith as an act of loyalty and commitment. I want to thank the chairperson for allowing me once again to pay tribute to a passing hero, a passing patriot. But on passing, let us leave, remember, step into his footprints in the sands of time. God bless you all.
Thank you, Comrade Sharif Mutu. Before I call Comrade Hamilton Green, our elder, I just want to recognize a few persons. Sitting here this evening, we had two of Oscar's dedicated secretaries, and these ladies were special. Miss Camille Hamilton, who no longer resides in Guyana, she just left here a few moments ago. And we have Miss Jewel Tapin, and the person we don't have here this evening with us is Comrade Patsy Prasad. And these ladies got to be special to work with Oscar Clarke, who don't know torn off or torn on time. So I want to thank you for coming, ladies. I now call on Comrade Hamilton Green to come and give the final tribute. Eugene, you're at the National Congress of Women. I didn't see you get up to assist any of the women who came out here. I know, like you're welcome with Green talk something about you, Eugene. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, for affording me this opportunity. On the 15th of this month, my wife came into the office and said she had some bad news. I paused and she paused. I said, "What's the bad news?" She said that Oscar Clarke had passed. I paused to digest that horrible message and proceeded to the Woodlands Hospital, where I saw his son and the young lady trying to do the final things. They say hope springs eternal in the human breast. So I was still hoping that this news was not true. So I said, "Oscar Eliezer, talk to me." I never addressed him as Oscar, always Oscar Eliezer. I said, "Oscar Eliezer, talk to me." Hopefully, his son, who was there, brought me to my senses and said he wouldn't answer you. Tears came to my eyes as I moved from the enclosure and sat down to understand the tragedy that has taken over this country. Let me say before I go further, on behalf of my wife and family, I extend condolences, his wife, and the entire Clarke family circle. When I tried to understand the news, and when Oscar didn't answer me in the hospital room, I had no idea that Oscar, when he spoke to me just 2 days before, was on the final treader in the departure lounge. But it was true. And I pondered the words of John Donne, and in my own way, that his death devastated me and the family and the party and created a void in our society. And he said, "Ask not to whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee." I have no doubt that many things will be said, as has already been said, about Oscar. And you'll forgive me a few personal anecdotes. Because earlier this year, along with another departed fellow, Oscar graciously came to my home and spent most of the day, he and Eric Mosley. Because I had a large canister of photographs, and since my vision has gone, I couldn't recognize them. And Oscar and Mutt went through those trunks, identifying photographs from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. I want to thank him and the family for allowing him that day, which he spent at my home. Mutt has already departed a few weeks ago. But in these days, one must treasure, and as Joshua Chawad said, let us try to inculcate the values of people like Oscar Eliezer Clarke. I will share some few anecdotes. When he was High Commissioner to Zambia, I'd gone there on an official visit. Have a breakfast outside of the hotel room in the open. It was a beautiful day. But little did we know that apparently every 4 or 5 years, some small monkeys would come from out of the forest, hundreds of them, and attack people who were there. So these monkeys came vicious, and I decided, and we decided, you had to get into the hotel room. Well, I thought I was a sprint in my days, but Oscar got there before me. And the Zambians told us that every 3, 4 years, these monkeys come out from nowhere and attack people in certain communities. The other anecdote I bit to share with you, and I don't want to go into any chronological things, is that when Oscar was chairman of Region 6, I had returned from a long journey on the quarantine and stopped at his office, very thirsty, and Oscar directed me to his refrigerator in the room. I took out a bottle, poured it into a glass, and we, people may tell you, gobble up everything. It was gin. Well, I don't drink, so I collapsed in the chair, and that incident has been the cause of humor with Oscar and I for many years. But I disciplined Oscar, said, Oscar, if you have water in your fridge and people like me come, keep the water on one side of the fridge. He said, Hammy, I didn't think about it, so I forgave you. But Oscar, I remember, in 1964, when the founder leader, a man of great perspicacity, visionary, talent, and wisdom. And one of the things the party has to do is bring Burnham's wisdom, vision to the fore, and stop this nonsense that people are trying to put his grandeur, his excellence down. In 1964, I was then the youngest general secretary in very troublous time. And it was murder, mayhem, and marginal lines. And the great founder leader, a man who believed in consulting, said, Hammy, we're looking for a brilliant young man for Parliament. Without hesitation, Oscar's name came up. So if my records are correct, I believe in 1964, Oscar may have been the youngest parliamentarian at the time. Throughout the 60s and the 70s, Oscar made a mark in this country as ambassador. I remember when he was performing the duties of speaker, a certain honorable gentleman, who we are now here is father of the nation, you young PNC have to deal with that, you know. That distortion, that disfiguring of our history, but I ain't come to talk about that. We wanted a young man from the youth movement to be the anchor of a new parliament in 1964. Oscar was that choice. And he performed creditably. And the mistake, as some people thought, of Burnham putting young men in, never came to fruition. And talk what you like, Oscar performed with dignity and with aplomb. At a personal level, Oscar always sought to keep the party up front. I'm glad that this opportunity presents itself. For us, never, 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 ever to make slight of the People's National Congress. It is this party, and I know Oscar will ask me to say this. It is his party, our party, that can save this country out of the troublous time. And when Oscar visited me to go through those photographs, we discussed this matter as we thumbing through photographs, some which I don't remember. Ian Mosley. And he asked the question, Hammy, what can we do to set the party on the road to victory now that we have all this money? I said to Oscar, are you willing to devote a day or two at Congress Place to help the young secretariat through the maze of politics? He agreed. I never got a chance to put that offer into effect. And I don't know who can help, because the present General Secretary is young, enthusiastic. But there, in our circumstances, there's no substitute for experience and understand the wiles, machination, and rascality of the People's Progressive Party. And when you go into a boxing match, unless you understand the techniques of the opponent, you are unlikely to win the battle. And I hope, as we speak here this evening, to honor Oscar Eliezer, that among those who have the experience will come forward and offer their help so that we get into the seat of government. Because that was Oscar's hope, his dream, his aspiration. So don't come here tonight and sing and talk. Incidentally, Comrade Chairman, Oscar the man who started many songs. And I felt a little uncomfortable when most of you don't seem to have any ear song. So we miss Oscar for that. But on a serious note, as we pay tribute to Oscar Eliezer, let us use this opportunity in this place that, as I think the chairman said, is the home for the backbone and strength of this party. When I became General Secretary in 1962, the women provided the front line. The women of this party made the PP understand we're not going to stand any confounded nonsense. I hope that to play honor to Oscar Eliezer, out of this event this evening, we merge young women, middle women, and old women. And as a wise man, let me tell you, men, women never get old, you know. We men get old. Both psychologically, mentally, and biologically. that my tribute to Oscar is that we find young women who are prepared to work assiduously to make this party good and great. And as we discussed when he came to my home to look at those photographs, to vindicate the suffering, the humiliation of our noble ancestors who came here as slaves and indentured laborers, and the Aborigines who the plantocracy tried to enslave but did not succeed. Oscar, farewell. We will keep batting and hope that our batsmanship will see you looking up on us next year or whenever the Kavakamites call elections. Look down upon us and say, thank you, comrades, for putting this party back in power. And vindicate the suffering of Coffee, Kwamina, the others, the Enmore martyrs, Critchlow, Jagan, and Burnham in the early days. That must be our tribute to Oscar Eliezer. May he rest in peace, and we'll see you beyond the shores. I want to leave with you a little message, which I shared with some young people the other day. That where we are a few feet away from the mighty Atlantic, where the tide ebb and flow. When the tide flows, it brings with it life, shells, and life. When there's ebb tide, it takes with it life. Ebb tide has come for Oscar. He's gone there beyond which we can't see nor fathom. But those of us who washed ashore and are still here with the flood tide must do our work to make Guyana good and great. Thank you very much.
Why we cannot have a day when we can have the Chorit Mutus, the Hamilton Green, the Elan Scarberry, the Vincent Alexanders, the Cheryl Sampson, etc., etc. Come and share with us and speak to us not only about the history of this party, but also to give some guidance on how we can move forward to achieve the goal that we all want to achieve. And that is to take the reins of governance of this country. I will leave you to answer that question, why we cannot. We're gonna have another Oscar gone with all the experience, all the knowledge. Anywhere in this country, you're going to say, Clarke, going to X, Y, and Z. And he said, oh, where you go there? You gotta go to somebody, you know, and you gotta ask for this family, and you gotta ask for the body because his father was the headmistress, headmaster, and the mother was the head nurse, and he knows all of that. but it is gone. We always keep procrastinating that we can get these people to sit down and we will record them, etc. Noel and John is gone with all the knowledge and the insight and his thoughts and so about local government, etc. When, or we don't think those things are necessary. I throw that out to the young leaders. We're going to make a change in our program. First, I would like to sincerely thank Elder Hamilton Green for always being with us once the opportunity presents itself. I would like to have the vote of thanks done, and this will be done by Sister Hazel Pyle Lewis, who is the chairperson for the East Coast District of the National Congress of Women and counselor of Region Number 4 RDC. After which, we will all stand and stretch, and we will try to sing the party's battle song as Oscar Eliezer Clarke would have done. Lustily, Sister Hazel.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Good evening, comrades. My task should have been very simple: to move the vote of thanks at this event. However, with mixed emotions and heartfelt sadness, I rise to give honor where it is due. I was deeply moved as I listened to the various speakers' kind and profound tributes or utterances to our fallen comrade. Comrade Oscar Clarke, for decades, has dedicated his life to giving selfless service to our beloved country, this great party, PNCR, and the progressive world. Comrade Clarke was the embodiment of humility, thoroughness, selflessness, and love for the people and his country. His contributions to the neighborhood were noteworthy. Simultaneously, he positioned and developed our party through brilliance, thoughtfulness, and resilience. My mandate is to say thank you on behalf of the executive and other members of the National Congress of Women. Special thank you to our elder, Comrade Hamilton Green, who is always present to share his historical views of the PNCR. Special thank you to Sister Hazel Pinder and family, who is the treasurer of the National Congress of Women, Sister Linda Gomes, Haley and family, Sister Cheryl Sampson, another elder, who always give brief history of this party, and Sister Genevieve Allen. We would like to thank each one of you for your presence and contributions in making this event successful. You have demonstrated that the passing of our comrade will not find us wanting. We have resolved to be the torchbearers to continue with the process of strengthening and developing our nation and this great party. Finally, to his family, relatives, friends, and associates, our heartfelt condolences on our comrade's passing. May his life's work continue to stand out as a beacon of hope while God will provide the strength you need during this period of grief. May his soul find lasting and eternal rest in glory. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Hazel Pyle Lewis. I will also like to add, we would like to express our thanks, that is the National Congress of Women, to Comrade Nigel Pyle and Comrade Supriya Singh. Let me also recognize within our midst the Deputy Mayor of Georgetown, Sister Denise Miller. And Sister Miller, I believe on Thursday night that the City Council will be hosting a wake. In conjunction with the Parliament, so I could invite the whole of South Georgetown to come. All right, good. Thank you. So there you have it. Tomorrow night will be reflections at our party headquarters, 6 p.m. And then on Thursday night, there will be a wake at 6 p.m. too. But we'll start liming around there by 6 o'clock. So let us say 6 o'clock, but we'll keep our ears to the ground. I'm quite certain tomorrow night they will have the time and they will announce it there, but no, at City Hall. Yes, at City Hall. And on Friday will be the funeral service at 10 a.m. at St. George's Cathedral. Please be early, please be seated early. If you know Oscar, people start traveling already to come to bid him farewell. If you know him, people already traveling to come to bid him farewell. So there will be no holding of seats. You have to ensure that you get there at least by 7 o'clock in the morning. Walk with lunch, because I would get hungry. So we will all stand. Just all of the soldiers on the feet. I like this, I like this. You will go across there, pick up your placard. As you get hold of your program, at the very back of your program where the party battle song is there, we will have young Oscar come to say thanks.
Madam Chairman, honored guests, as you know, I'm not a public speaker like the great man. I will try. I know that as I sat here today and I listened to most of the tributes paid to my father, it was heartened. I'm heartened to know that he was fondly thought of by many of you. My personal reflections of him, especially his dedication and commitment to the People's National Congress, is second to none. I have traveled personally with him to most of the regions of Guyana, from
Monkey Mountain to Achiwib in the South Savannas to Gun Strip in Region 1. I've had that privilege of interacting with a number of persons from all walks of life. He was always a person who was down to earth, willing to mingle and gaff with the ordinary folk, while also interacting with some of the most prominent persons in the world. I share a lot of those memories and travels with him. So I know that while we lost a great comrade, a true patriot, and a model citizen of Guyana, we will always commit to ensuring that his legacy is maintained and that we can use that as a beacon upon which we can continue to build this great party and our society. So without further ado, thank you very much. And I really appreciate this effort and this program by your comrades. Thank you very much.
Say to the Clarke family, you're welcome. Okay, so are we ready? As we bring the curtains down. On the count of 3, you ready? Let me hear you. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? All right. You sound like you're getting there. On the count of 3. Vincent, you starting us off? One, 2, 3. Out of ages of oppression, independent now we stand, newly born again, victorious, reigning masters of our land. On the peak of Mount Roraima, or beneath the rising sun, from the marker point of Blair to where the currents run. All were given liberty by the might of the PNC. Hold the line of battle, comrades, link our arms in unity. Organize and charge the forces of the haughty enemy. Truth shall be our martial weapon, brotherhood, armor plate. Guyanese, the breed we cherish, scorning folks of region. From field and office factory, rally to the PNC. Sons of many lands and daughters of the continent of earth, PNC lifts up the banner of your precious human worth. All who labor are our comrades, all who suffer, kids and kin. Go to mountain, field, and factory, go out, brother, bring them in. From field and office factory, rally to the PNC. Black and green with red and palm tree freely flies our freedom flag. Rouse the lazy and the sluggard that will let it droop and drag. Rally from the coast and borders, field, office, factory. Brother, sister, friend, and comrade, rally to the PNC. From field and office, factory, rally to the PNC. Sacred is our labor, brother, honorable rings our toil. In the factory, in the office, winning riches from the soil. Honorable is our warfare, crush the monster poverty. Onto economic freedom in a great economy. from field and office factory, rally to the PNC. Long live our party. Thank you, comrades. Thank you. We ask that the great Jehovah will take us home safely to our families. Be blessed, comrades.